Management is a fickle business. It's not very profitable. Brokerage is much more profitable. Mom and pops, they think of things more in terms of cash flow, right? Whereas the larger investments, kind of sounds like your connection, they're gonna think of things more in a sophisticated way because there's a difference between profit and cash flow, right? Like back to the old days of marketing, like the rule of sevens, like they have to see your brand 7 times before they're gonna interact with it. That's the way it works. Like put it out everywhere.
Before we begin the podcast, I have a super simple ask for you. If you could subscribe to the channel, that would help us reach more business owners every single day. Thank you. Let's begin. Jake, you have a long history of working in various real estate industry professions. Your most recent is being the founder and broker of Bow and Arrow Real Estate. So now you're bigger on LinkedIn. What are you using the platform for, and how has it helped grow your real estate business?
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, by the way. Ultimately it's connecting you with people professionally, right? So social media for professional use, it's great. I do a lot of investment sales. So people looking to buy residential property that want a place to invest and stick money, grow their nest egg and so on. So that could be individuals that have certain titles that I just know this is their side hobby. People in the medical profession are a big one, but then also there's capital groups and people that work for capital groups, asset managers. You know, there's the key list of titles and positions you're looking for. So that's perfect for LinkedIn. So just identifying people based on who they are and what they do. It's really the best thing out there for it, outside of just, random Google search for, people who do this in your area or firms that do this. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're primarily on the investment side?
Yeah. Yeah. Primarily outside of really, friends and family. That's more focused on more the numbers side of it.
Okay. So you're the broker. Do you have agents under you at all then?
No, not currently. So I usually will partner with agents at other firms for the time being. So it just seems to work better that way because you can tap into their networks. And this is kind of my real estate business runs alongside our larger management company as well. So it just allows me to scale.
Okay. So it's your real estate business is more horizontal scaling from the investment side.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about the investment side then. How did you go from investments to the real estate brokerage to being effectively a agent on top of it?
hmm Yeah, I mean, it ultimately just comes down to being a salesperson. I started in property management in a pretty niche segment of multifamily real estate. We focus in like student housing properties. So they're private off-campus properties, private money, but around college campuses. So I started that whenever I was 19, and basically selling leases to college students. And then from there grew into just up through the ranks, I guess, so to speak. And eventually kind of learned the ropes, what it was about, how to be successful in it, to where people who want to invest in those kind of markets, or just in leasing investment property in general, I could talk intelligently about it and I understood how to get them what they're after. So it, kind of created an opportunity for me to create my firm as a vehicle to connect people who want to invest with, kind of the industry knowledge that we have at our larger firm.
That makes perfect sense. So you have your firm. Do you still work with a larger firm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, it actually, it really depends on the client. So we have a lot of larger, more sophisticated clients where they're going to work with our larger firm, which is Caliber Living. But then there's a lot of small, call them mom and pops, if you will, who aren't buying, 100-unit properties or anything like that, right? They're buying a condo. Well, I can help them as well.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. So if you're doing the kind of the mom and pop and the bigger one, which one is better for you, if that makes sense?
Depends on how you define better.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
better in terms of making more money for me, or better in terms, I guess it depends on what your benchmark is, money
Sure.
or scale, whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, management is a fickle business. It's not very profitable. Brokerage is much more profitable. So you really do management to get into the brokerage business, at least if you want to make more money. Or there's other angles as well. You can go into the capital side and that thing as well. So yeah, I mean, ultimately doing a bigger deal yields more money, creates more opportunity. So I guess the larger one in terms of better. But you can be good, you can be really good at the other and just own that lane and be successful there too. It just depends on ultimately how you want to spend your time and what your end goal is.
Yeah, I think a lot. That's one thing that I've learned recently is so my girlfriend's uncle, he's a really big real estate investor, and his big thing is multifamily residential.
Hmm.
Like that's just shtick. It's basically
Yeah.
condos. So his big is making money in equity, whereas I'm assuming if you're doing bigger like apartment buildings, you're making a lot more money in cash flow.
Yeah, it depends. So that brings up a good point. So between talking about the difference between the two, your smaller, call them mom and pops, they think of things more in terms of cash flow, right? Whereas the larger investments kind of sounds like your connection, they're gonna think of things more in a sophisticated way because there's a difference between profit and cash flow, right? So that usually actually is kind of the difference maker in how you talk to the two sides. What's their language and how much do they really understand about it?
Real estate agents, are you struggling to capture leads? If you're struggling to capture leads through your website, we can help. We've created a step by step guide on how to use our lead capture engine. It's the system we've used on all of our real estate websites to capture sellers, including Cade Covey, who earned an extra $80,000 in just 3 months by working with us. Are you ready to set up your lead capture engine? Visit dmrmedia.org slash hashtag gift to learn more about how we can get warm leads like a pro. Talk to me a little bit about that. A little bit into the difference because you said they speak different languages. What should I know if I'm talking to a mom and pop versus if I'm talking to I guess a seasoned investor?
Yeah. So your mom and pop, it's more like I would call it like kitchen table economics. So they're just looking at money in, money out. Like just at the end of the day, how much money, even on a month to month basis, am I paying out? And how much revenue, rent, etc., is coming in on a month. And so they look at it more like that. Again, kitchen table economics. And so the difference there, ideally, they're bringing in more per month than they're spending per month. They think of that as profit, and they include a lot of things in that aren't technically part of that equation. If you're talking about a sophisticated, so like their like debt service and the payments that they're making to the bank, that's the principal actually isn't an expense, right? So they think of it that way, but it's not. The only expense there would be whatever their interest payment is on that one monthly payment. And then obviously the insurance and things as well. But the principal, which is, gets to be kind of the larger chunk, is a different thing. So you calculate that differently when you talk about profit. They don't see it that way. They just want solid cash flow. So you kind of just get over that in a sense with them, and you just try to make sure that when they're doing it, they're getting a rent that's going to cover that, and then they're going to see a margin on a month to month basis. Now, obviously, expenses, whatever, like the toilet blows up, you got to fix it. You're going to have months where you're negative. Hopefully, they understand that, but but that's how they look at it. Whereas the other guys, a bigger property has a lot more complex problems. So they understand all of those things. They've underwritten these deals out with analysts and with bankers. I mean, to even get to the point to buy that, someone had to go through all those exercises somewhere. So there's a level of understanding on that point what the difference is. And whereas, like, if you took some deal like that and explained it to your mom and pop client, they'd be like, "Wait, no, you're losing money." It's like that's not the way they're thinking about it, because it's more than that. It's in terms of time, and there's a lot of other factors in that created a money making deal, and so on. So
Yeah. I mean, one can be done in Excel, one can, well, you need a couple analysts. That's kind of the
yeah,
short run
well,
there.
the funny thing is too, and a lot of like agents joke about this, especially your true kind of like realtor, everyday real estate agents, like they'll all have a client at some point that they bought their house with this agent, and then now they want to buy a second home that they're going to rent or Airbnb or something. So as much sophistication as between the two of them have, there's usually like a podcast or something that someone listened to somewhere, and they learned that this spreadsheet and this is this magic formula. And that the joke is that every single one of those people all have a spreadsheet, and they're all different, and you can't. It's hard to educate them on what actually makes sense and not, because sometimes they can't see through their own self-created barriers. So a lot of times you have to figure out what they consider profitable and what they consider good versus bad. And then sometimes you try to, sometimes they're spot on. I'm not trying to say I know everything and whatever, but a lot of times I see that come up, and they'll use words, and I'm like, it's not really actually the way that is. Let me help, whatever. So that can be tricky, like just, the level of sophistication. And, it's important to consult with people and ideally teach them and let them kind of see how it goes. And obviously you never want to get someone in a situation where they're buying something and you're misleading them or giving them, a dud. That you won't be in business very long if you're doing that. So it's kind of just learning your client a little bit there too.
Yeah. Kind of like on the same note of that, are you familiar with how ads work? In like
Yeah.
a okay, okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a short, small word, but a big word. What kind of ads?
Yeah, like digital ads. So like Facebook ads, Google ads, either one.
Yeah.
So I actually just had a disagreement this morning with one of the guys that I contract out with about how we calculate ROAS, so return on the ad spend. And it
Okay.
wasn't like, oh, this is going to be a major difference. It was just, how do we calculate the value of each lead? Because in real estate, it's just like a shit show in general. Like, how do you
Hmm.
calculate the value of a lead? We don't know until they close, right? So it's
Hmm.
really, really hard to
Yeah.
gauge that. And so we just had a small disagreement about that. And it's like the same thing in the mom and pop. It's like, well, maybe like something blew up here, but like it's going to cost a little bit different here. And it's like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's so true too. Like, so at our larger firm at Caliber, I oversee all our marketing and our ad spend. And so you'll have these plans and budgets out with everybody, and they, they want everything to line up perfectly, because again, if they're living off a spreadsheet, that's how they tend to think about things, that everything should tie in. And in marketing, it doesn't always work that way. Like, you need a lot of leads, and that's going to lead to a lot of transactions and conversions, etc. And it just works that way.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel you there.
The other difference is ad spend for branding.
Oh,
That,
that's a tough one. That's a really tough one to explain. Yeah.
yeah. Like, okay, so I do SEO, obviously,
Hmm.
right? And one of the biggest things with SEO is being like, guys, listen, if you show up on Google 9 times out of 10, we can get like no lead out of it. But the 1 in 10, it's like, that's really good. But now you have the branding for the 9 out of 10. So they saw you here. So they're more likely to
Yeah.
click on a Facebook ad. So it's
Hmm.
really hard to explain that like externality, if you will, with
Yeah,
branding.
because they always wanted to tie out, right? Like they like it kind of, I honestly, I don't laugh. It actually kind of irritates me. But like when people they want, like, there's like so much data out there, and they almost like expect now, like, what exactly was someone looking at whenever they clicked? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of like back to the old days of marketing, like the rule of sevens. Like, they have to see your brand 7 times before they're gonna interact with it. That's the way it works. Like, put it out is everywhere you can get it. The data is, there we have way more insights than we've ever had before. But like there's always more to the story, like it's marketing is a science and an art at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's one of the things where it's really fortunate when you can be like, yeah, these ads are like returning and it's getting like a 10x return. But then you're like, wait, it was 95% the organic content that we're doing
Hmm.
anyways. So I'll give you
Yeah.
a good example of this. I have a personal brand, hence the podcast, right? And
Hmm.
so if I run ads on the channels that I have my personal brand and I retarget viewers, my my cost per click halves. So it makes the ads twice as profitable.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it's like how much is attributed to what?
Yeah. And everyone like it's hard too because people like learn buzzwords, but they don't always understand them either. Like you get the people that get lost in impressions, right? Like, and, oh my God, I got this. I'm like, that's great. But you know, we, when we know that like we're getting like maybe less impressions, but more conversions here, that's like, if we're talking about costs, like this is where we should be, and kind of honing that in. So that you see a lot of that too. It's like, they're like, think they're half dangerous, but I'm like, that's not really the way it works.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see like a new marketer and them going in and like my cost per click is super cheap, and you're like, that's because you're getting clicks from India. Let's let's
Right.
stop. So there's a lot of different nuances in that. I want to ask you. So you're on the investment side for marketing and advertising. What's that like?
Um, well, to be honest, I mean, most of I guess to be clear to that point, who we're marketing to would be like your residents. Like we're trying to get people to sign leases. That would be most of the marketing. We have more of a like B2B marketing, I guess, because we're trying to attract clients to buy properties, manage, etc. And that's a little different. That's more nuanced, more like the LinkedIn stuff we're talking about. But in this, I mean, we are basically trying to figure out like like I said, we do college housing. And it's interesting because these kids are going to school there and so they live there, but are they from there? Are they always there? And so you have to kind of really figure out how they're going. And a lot of things that exist for like your regular multifamily property marketing are not the same. Those rules don't apply to ours because it's like everyone's from somewhere else. Like normally, if someone's living in a college town, they like just moved there and they're there for school and they go home for the holidays and marketing to them and then their parents. Just it gets to be a little interesting. And there's a lot of people who are trying to constantly break that code and like how they can figure it out. Actually, got a lot tougher when they tightened the rules around marketing, like on Facebook and stuff. For instance, now they have a lot more locks on, and this for sure, like on who you can market to and how around housing. So that got a little more difficult. But there's all kind of different people trying to attack it and with data or with this product or that product and so on. So it's interesting to see where it goes. But that's what happens when you live in kind of a little niche part of the industry. So
Real estate agents, are you tired of chasing leads? If you're struggling to find quality sellers or feel like marketing takes up too much time, DMR Media can help. We specialize in getting real estate agents high quality leads, ready to buy leads through SEO and pay per lead approach. That means basically no upfront cost and zero risk. You pay when we deliver results. Imagine a steady flow of clients finding you on Google while you focus on closing deals. We've done it for agents like Cade Covey, who earned an extra $80,000 in just 3 months with our system. Take back your time and get results. Visit dmrmedia.org to learn more about how we can make your marketing work for you.
Yeah, that is the housing thing. I can't tell you. I swear, every single ad account that I start up on Google, it's like housing, restricted vertical, can't be shown to anyone. And you're like, I have to appeal this again.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
automatically flags it as soon as you say home.
yeah, yeah. And there's like groups that like really get in and specialize in that, right? And they kind of understand what they can do and can't do, or what they have to do to get it out there to the people you're trying to talk to. And um, oftentimes, back to kind of the original thing we were talking about, that stuff becomes so technical and nuanced. And I'm talking to guys who see everything in, like, black and white. And again, like, they underwrote this and they're great at doing math and accounting and all these other things. And they're like, well, why can't you just everyone who's this, like, promote it to them? I'm like, no, you can't do that. You can't go to say, I only want to promote your housing to this neighborhood. That's illegal. So, you kind of walk through all those landmines with them as well.
Yeah, it's a real fun one out there. I'm working on a Google Ads course now that I'm pre-selling purely because of this. It's just real estate, because there's so many different things in the housing vertical that you have to be careful of. And I made it so simple, like it's copy and paste to make sure no one gets flagged. But I'll copy and paste my own ads, switch the name on them, and I'll get flagged. It's like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So targeting is really, really weird. So you have to be super, super careful with that. But you also have to be careful on exactly what you say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you about AI.
Words you stay away from, and ideally avoid.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about AI because you said you were on a panel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are your opinions on it?
I mean, this is kind of one of my continuing things. Like, I think it's AI today, at least in this sector. I'm not talking about like larger AI and its capabilities across, other industries and sectors. But in what we do, it's obviously efficient in what it's good at today, but it's not efficient enough to where it's actually saving anybody any money. Like, it saves time on some mundane tasks that, like, we don't like to do, or it's kind of cool for this or for that. But, for instance, like, the big one now that a lot of people have are like the AI chatbots that they want on their websites, and they want them to like nurture leads and stuff. Well, that's great depending on what kind of like firm you are or what your exact like thing is. But like, if I have a property with a bunch of people I'm already employing to be sales agents, it's not good enough to where I can like get rid of any of them and then actually save money on this AI product, right? So I would buy the AI product, add it to my website, spend X dollars per month, but I still have to have all the same staff. So it's not replacing anybody until replacing those roles, I guess, because that's the other hot topic now of like AI is taking jobs. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think the larger thing will be like it will create other jobs that are maybe more sophisticated, but these jobs will go away. Like, the more mundane the task, the more it makes sense for AI. But there's, in what we do, there's some nuances to it. There's some artistry, as I call it, like, to sales that it just can't do. And people don't really like, people want to fish, like, the customer, the renter, the prospect, like, they want like attention, they want to be heard, and they want efficiency, but they also want human connection. Like, I like to use the phone tree example. Eventually you get to a point where it's like, can I just like talk to someone and ask them my one weird question without going through the screening of like this bot? So it's like getting there. I think it will be there maybe one day, but it isn't there today to where it's like a no-brainer. Like, you could do this because it's saving you X amount of money per month.
Yeah, AI is one of those really, really weird ones. Like, I see it a lot in ad copywriting more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, that perfect. Again, the more mundane the task, the better. Like, ad copy, huge, all of those, like, like, the joke is like, referral letters and things like that, like very basic things. I use it for real estate letters a lot. Like, if I'm sending out mass mailers of like properties that we're interested in, want to buy, like kind of an initial like intro email, it's great at that kind of stuff because all the mundane, like copying different addresses and reformatting the letter, blah, 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 does all that. So huge efficiency, time saver on that point. But I wish, until the day comes where I can like say like, hey, Genesis, send letters to these 100 people and get their addresses and then send them to the post office. Like it ain't there. I still have to be involved in it. I still have to have someone, an assistant or something help with that too. So we're getting there, just not there yet.
Yeah, the other part is hooks. It's not as good at writing hooks, so you still have to write
Yeah.
that main part.
Yeah.
Like Google Ads, if you're doing search ads, you just essentially copy and paste the keyword 9 times out of 10, and that's a really good hook. But like if you want to do secondary headings or third headings, you want to manually write those because you'll get a lower cost per click and better conversion rate. So you have to be a good enough copywriter to outdo the ads. I'd say they're pretty like low to mid average at like hook writing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, again, to that point, right? There's always a little artistry in it. It's not. There's still someone's got to think about it.
The other one is it's not good at like humor. So if you're a very humorous writer, your AI is just going to take all of the soul away from it. So you still need to go in and do all of those little things. Like I'll give you a really good example. In like ironically, AI chatbots, the more unique you are, the more likely they are to put you on, essentially recommend you. So if you go to Perplexity or something and you have unique statistics, you have quotes, you have unique insights, it's more likely to rank you because it doesn't show up elsewhere. And so you need that uniqueness as well. And the AI can't quite give that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and to that, I mean, that's kind of I guess probably its detrimental flaw, right? Like that it's almost like anti-unique, right? Because it's just pulling from whatever else is out there. Does it come up with an original idea? I don't know. But to the humor thing, it's kind of making me laugh because after I did this panel, I was like flying back on the plane. And weirdly enough, I'd never watched the movie Interstellar because it's like long and involved, but on a plane, perfect. So I did, and of course they have like the AI bots in like the thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but like it's like, what's your humor setting? And it's like turning it down, and it's like making fun of him, and the honesty setting. And I'm like, see, that's the part we're missing. Like it doesn't have that. It just does what it does.
We need an honesty setting from ChatGPT. It hurts a little sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think if they got that in AI, man, we're set.
Yeah, I mean, well, it'll be there. I mean, you look at how fast it's evolving. I mean, I think it will go, but I think everybody gets really excited about stuff, and then they try to like they want it so bad that they like try to forcefully incorporate it into their business when it truly doesn't make sense. They end up spending precious time, precious money on this thing that all it's doing is actually just changing your process, or you're adding a step that wasn't there before just so you can say you have AI. And it's like, did it really help you? I don't know. ChatGPT is free. Like, you can ask it anything you want for that. Like, don't put it in your process just because you want to have AI. So and I see a lot of that. People just get excited,
I think one of the biggest advantages that I've had is actually not using AI, like almost at all for client stuff, because we get better on the margins. And because we're getting better on the margins, that extra like 10% doubles how much our ads are worth, or like doubles how good we are.
You're like paying attention to it more.
Exactly. Like SEO blog posts, it's literally playing on the margins to get the first ranking. Like it's tiny things like removing this headline, adding a comma here. And so doing that makes a huge difference where people just aren't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we say that all the time, like I'm a big like process guy, right? Like, so while we might have like spreadsheet here or the data comes in, like I want to make it efficient, but I purposely try to build some human like transference interaction in like crucial points, because I want someone to own that lane, and I need to own a certain lane. So like if an owner asks me at whatever time, hey, what's going on in my property in this market? I'm not like, whoa, let me check the chart. Like, no, I had to see that data come across my desk to like at least have some kind of idea what's going on there off the top of my head. Maybe not be able to quote it verbatim, but I'm not like lost and like depending on, all these other tools just to have that stuff there. You kind of have to know know what you're doing and have a grasp and understanding. Otherwise, it's way too easy to get lazy and just like not check it because it's just taking care of itself. So, and
Yeah.
you miss opportunities. You do, especially in sales. That's really what it is. It happens to be properties, but we're in the people business.
Dude, I'm so guilty of that. I have a couple of employees, and my problem is they're so independent. They just do it.
Mhm.
Like I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it. They're the
Yeah.
best, right? I'm just like, dude, just like get it done. There's one, I don't think I messaged him in 2 weeks, and he's still doing stuff. Like he's still getting everything done. Like I'm not
Yeah.
worried about him. He's doing his thing.
And then you take it for granted, right? Like,
Yeah. And like, so I've had to make a conscious effort to like go out and be like, dude, like, are you good? Like, are you alive still?
right. And then like what's going on? And then when you ask, they're like all this stuff. I'm like, whoa, like where this, yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, I don't have anything else for you. Do you have places that you want to send people?
Um, yeah, everybody who wants to buy an investment property, I want them to go. Want them to go to. Well, I'm actually getting a new website for my brokerage because we're rebranding. But when it's live, I want them to go there. Or anybody on a larger firm, I want them to go to our Caliber website.
There you go. Or just find your LinkedIn. We can link that.
Or just
Keep it
on
easy.
LinkedIn. Yeah, one way or the other. I mean, hey, put all the hooks out there. You're bound to catch a fish and move on.
You guys will figure it out.
We will.